Hey everybody, happy Wednesday to you. Welcome to Midnight Hatter Live, the weekly variety show where we talk Gundam, gaming, and Gunpla. I'm your host, Midnight Hatter, aka Steven, and joining me as always is the Blue Gamer Gundam explainer, Adam Blue. How are you doing, sir?
Hey, doing good. You know what Wednesday means? Streaming. It's the middle of the week.
Yeah,
Friday Junior is upon us. So yeah,
hump
I'm looking
day.
forward to today.
And so like now I'm talking to a full-time streamer, right? Because I've seen that you've been doing, Art Rovo streams, you've been doing Zeeg New York streams, like you've been doing frequent sponsored build streams, which has been awesome, honestly.
Yeah, I think it's just now at a point where I've been doing it so long. I've learned to not be so scared or nervous. That was the thing at the beginning. I was always nervous whenever I had to stream. And then once I get the tech and the software down, now it's a matter of, yeah, I got Zionic Shadows package from Sieg New York yesterday, and I was like, why don't I just stream this? So I just moved the camera over,
Yeah,
pressed the button because I already had everything set up, and I felt comfortable because usually there's the usuals that jump into chat, and I always feel very comfortable knowing I'm talking to them, and then some, surprise people jumped in, and yeah, it's a good time. It's a
that's
good time.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm probably gonna talk I have a topic for later in the show where we're gonna be talking about, streaming y and from a marketing perspective, like, content creation because, I've encountered some things both in my day job and, just watching ads online, and then, of course, being a part-time content creator like yourself, one of the things that I'm gonna heap some praise on you about for that, but don't let it go to your head, is is your ability to push out quality content, and we're going to talk about how you are able to do that, and
Cool.
hopefully it's going to be inspiring to people in the chat who are trying to do the same thing.
Yeah, that's how I see it too. It's like I feel like I unlock something. It's like, oh, I got to share this. That's
Yeah.
usually how it happens. Yeah.
So this is we're taking a break from the guests because we had back-to-back guests for the last 2 weeks.
Finally.
Right. It's like
Finally get some one-on-one time.
I know, right? See, and people don't realize that, like, this is therapeutic for you and I because this is, like, the most often that we get to talk to each other. Like, we might get 5 minutes here on
Right,
Friday,
but a
whatever.
consistent, focused, like, we're not like, "Oh, work got me." Oh, hold on
Right.
a second.
These
Yeah.
streams are just a chance for Adam and I to talk, and you guys just get to listen to it.
Yeah,
Um,
it's pretty cool.
but what is cool about it is that for the last 2 weeks, we've had, the Undergated podcast and we had, Gunpla Luke on. And
Yeah.
what's awesome is that back to back, we've had regional Gunpla Builder World Cup winners in Gunpla Luke, and then this past weekend,
Right.
it's Coop from the Undergated podcast
Yeah.
took home the Newport News one from, Hobbytown here. And so, in honor of that, this coming weekend is gonna be the one at my local shop, here in Richmond. So, I'm gonna go there. I don't have anything to enter,
Right,
but
but
I am gonna go there, take some photos, share that stuff around with you guys, talk to some of the folks there. I am interested to see, there's definitely some of the usual crew in RVA Gunpla that, consistently deliver high level, Gunpla, and so, we definitely have our predictions about who's if they enter, who's gonna take home
uh,
the prize on that.
that's
And
actually
it
pretty fun. That just so
Yeah,
you can kinda see what's there, because a lot of times when I finally hear about the winners, I didn't get a chance to really see what was there and almost kind of guess, because I guess that's kind of fun to do because what is it gonna be? Is it gonna be about a diorama style thing, or is it gonna be maybe, technical aspects? Is it gonna be the painting, you know? What could it be?
exactly, and it's fascinating because it's so subjective, right? Like, there's no, like, hard grading criteria. I actually was doing some research on this because I was curious after talking to Gunpla Luke, what are these kind of strict measures that, Bandai puts in place? Because and I had a plan to have all this stuff out because I was gonna screen share it and show you guys because, they've got the online entry form for if you want to participate in the, Gunpla Builders World Cup, and, I mean, there are some stringent requirements, like, everything does have to be Bandai licensed, you can't
Alright.
use any third party stuff, um, there you interestingly enough, I didn't see any rules about 3D printing, so that's a curious one, and I
Yeah.
don't know if I now, that said, I'm not going to try and sneak any 3D printed parts into my, entries, next year because I do have a plan to enter something pretty awesome.
Okay, that's cool, so you're planning for next year. right
That's
now.
my plan, and so, this is one of those things that I think is a gray area, right? Because I wanna be able to use one of my LED microcontrollers. Not a Bandai product, but it's not exactly, like, counterfeit or
And it's
contraband.
custom in a way, because it's kind of the broken down materials, like and even the 3D printing, I bet it would be maybe there's a percentage that a kit can't be replaced with 3D parts, especially if you did it by hand. You know,
Yeah,
because really 3D printing at the you're measuring and figuring it out. Um, and the
yeah,
diorama pieces, like from Luke's build, remember he did some of those parts by hand anyway?
yeah,
Maybe
those were
so
scratch built,
yeah,
um,
so maybe it depends on what's on the kit itself,
and
you
then,
know?
like, where do resin, conversion parts
Oh,
play into
yeah.
it? So there's definitely a lot of stuff to consider about that, now speaking of, what I would say are not necessarily competitive, but I do wanna shout out that um I've got a new thing that I'm doing on Patreon now, right? Where at the start of
Oh.
every month, we pick from 4 potential themes of a creative build. Now, this is Gunpla or whatever, you don't have to be committed to one thing. It's just any creative endeavor that is related to this theme. Now, I guess technically I'm cheating because I had started this prior, but to give you guys an update on what I'm gonna be doing, we've got
Oh.
our Core Zeta Gundam is coming together pretty nicely, I would say.
Yeah, the
Um,
colors already I mean, obviously the shield part too, but the colors,
yeah.
like, really kind of already say this is Zeta themed, so
Exactly, and, we've got I cast in clear green resin a copy of the faceplate that I'm gonna have to paint, but it's going to allow me to install one of our little wireless LEDs in there, um, and then I
wow.
just think this is funny because this is like the stock unit, the thing that comes with the Alice Core Gundam that kind of holds all of the parts,
Oh,
and
yeah.
so it does fit currently part of the legs, and to me, it just looks like that thing from Tron that, like,
Oh, yeah.
like
That
the stompy thing,
whatever that thing was called, yeah, that's some
but so
lore I
the
don't
idea
know.
is that this is going to transform into, like, the back weapon system,
That is cool.
yeah, so I think it's gonna be pretty cool. I used some of, like, the Gunpla see, and again, if I were to enter this into, an official competition from Bandai, we're using the official Bandai Kaku,
Oh,
um
yeah.
the replacement hands, so but don't do the 3D printed ones, right?
Yeah, no, that looks cool. I that is a very unique custom for a lot of reasons.
I think it's pretty cool. I've seen that there's other people that have been doing some core I saw that
Oh,
there was a Core Zeta, but it didn't do what I wanted it to do. It was actually they made it transform into the Wave Rider, and they didn't
oh,
actually use any Zeta parts. They just kind of made it look like the
oh,
Zeta just with
yeah,
the paint job and things like that. But I
okay.
also saw a Core Zazabi, which was pretty sweet. That was on
Oh,
Twitter.
wow.
I probably need to find a link to that and share it to you guys. But that is not going to be what I enter for next year. Should I
Oh.
spoil the surprise or should I hold off?
I don't think I could handle not knowing.
All right, so let's pull this guy out here.
Okay.
So a keen eye might recognize this as the upper torso and head and bust of the P Bandai Zeta Plus C1 from Gundam Sentinel. And what we've got here is these are the booster units from the S Gundam booster.
Oh, okay.
And so what we're going to do is we're actually going to convert this bad boy into the C1 Hummingbird, which is like an MSV from Gundam Sentinel.
Right.
And not only is it going to be lit up with LEDs that are controlled via the microcontroller, I'm going to install LEDs into each of the booster units so that you could get like color change. It's going to go from blue to orange, like as the thrusters turn on and everything.
Oh, wow.
But you're gonna be able to swap out for the standard legs versus the booster legs. You're
Oh.
gonna be able to transform the thing. Now, unfortunately, this is, related to both the Core Zeta and that. So, you might have saw on Instagram I posted because, I've been using that Silly Knot, which is a silicone replacement for mold making and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
I've been using that to make copies of stuff, and it's been working out great. So, like, this is one of the molds that I used for making, replacement faceplates for the Mercurius and V8, which that was pretty cool. I managed to get the program working for the V8. So, like, I actually have an app where you can hit a button and it flashes red just like in the anime. I'm really excited for how that's turning out. And so what I tried to do was I tried to make a copy of the if you're familiar with the high grade Zeta Plus, you know that there is a piece that is used like to mount all of the parts to in order to make it a parts former and it transforms into Wave Rider mode. Well, I needed one for both the Core Zeta and the Zeta Plus Hummingbird, and so I went ahead and tried to cast that in Silanaut, and it turns out that I overcooked the Silanaut, and so it was probably 180, 220 degrees, and it
Whoa.
melted my Zeta Plus Wave Rider mode into this glob of plastic.
Wow.
So not only did I ruin my Core Zeta, but I also ruined my Zeta Plus.
Well, you know what? There is one left on Amazon for 34.99. I was about to buy it, but, no, I'm joking.
Wait, for the C1? Like the P Bandai one, or is that the
No, this is the unicorn version.
Oh, okay. Well, no
Interesting.
worries. I actually still do have a unicorn version,
How'd you
in the
look at
backlog, so I can harvest some parts from that and and make a copy. Um,
Okay. What's the difference between the 2?
so initially I was kind of peeved because I thought that and hey, I'm gonna eat crow on this one. You know, of all of the things that I hear people complaining about P Bandai, the Zeta Plus C1 was the only one that I actually had real complaints with. And the reason being is that I thought it was the exact same as the unicorn version of the Zeta Plus, but with one extra runner for the smart beam gun. Not
Right.
not the case. It actually has a lot of different parts. So, like, if you really zoom in this is gonna sound awkward, but if you zoom in on the groin, the Zeta Plus from Unicorn has a boxier shape to it, whereas the Zeta Plus from, the C1 from Gundam Sentinel has kind of a rounded shape, in the
Yeah.
groin.
I'm looking it up right now. There are some minor differences.
Yeah. And then, of course, they have there's the mounted cannons that stick to the wings on the C1. So there are some differences
Oh,
between the
yeah.
2. I was wrong.
No, but that's one I never really thought about because I always knew there was a Sentinel version and the unicorn version, but I never really that's a video right there. What's the difference?
Yeah, what is the difference?
I might
And
have to do that this weekend.
so going back to Gunpla Luke, that master grade Zeta Plus A1, the, like, orange and white one,
Oh, yeah.
that is similar to the C1. So it has the rounded groin, it has the cannons on the wings. The
Okay.
it seems like the unicorn version's kind of a dumbed down one.
Yeah, it
But
seems like it. I wonder yeah, again, I'm gonna do a video on that, because I
yes.
really that is one that I wanna have because, yeah, I tend to wanna make videos about things that I need to, like, get sticky into my head. So
Yeah, and, the Zeta family, right, is such a fascinating topic because I think we've talked about it on the show before, how ever since 0087 in universe, they had been trying to make a mass-produced Zeta. You've got the Zeta Plus, you've got the mass-produced Zeta Gundam, you've got the Rigazee, you've got,
would you consider a Delta Chi?
the
Uh,
Delta Chi.
okay.
Technically, yeah, if it's part of the family, but we're gonna talk about that in just a second. Don't
Oh,
you worry.
okay, okay.
The Rizel, right? But
Oh,
I think
yep.
the Rizel's where they finally got it right, because technically, of all of the mass production Zetas, they already had a mass production Zeta. It was the Methus.
Oh, that's right, because it was doing the transforming thing,
Yeah.
and
So that
interesting.
one was already it did the thing.
It did the
But
thing.
I'm glad that you mentioned the Delta because I have some things to share myself
Okay.
from Zeeg, New York. I too got a little care package. I just posted this over on Instagram a little earlier tonight, but we've got the Goku training kit or trial kit. This is awesome because you know that I'm a huge Dragon Ball guy, and I've been trying
Right.
to. to get you on the Dragon Ball train.
Yeah, yeah, because yeah, my youngest is into that, and he's shared some and those Bandai action figures are pretty awesome.
Oh, dude, they are amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But on the subject of Delta, we've got the Delta Gundam 2 in
Oh,
all red.
and
So this
what does the
was
red
a
mean?
I think it's the Char Aznable colors, and I think, Zeonic Shadow is in the, chat to correct me. I am fairly certain this is Char's, uh,
Let me
Delta
look it up.
Gundam.
And what is was that a limited one? Let's see. I'm
This
seeing
looks like a P Bandai if I ever seen one. You know, what with
oh,
the
true.
monochrome box art.
Yeah,
It
let's
does
see.
say on the box, "Limited item." So shout out to Zeonic Shadow for picking this up because he knows that I'm a Zeta freak, and so this is right up my alley. I'm gonna have to figure out a way to pay homage to Zeeg New York through that kit.
Yeah, you know what? That's I feel like that's the first time I've seen that. And I wonder I'm gonna have to look up if there's some background information on that. Was that just made as a kit, or is there lore to it?
That's another video.
That's another video. I
Look at
no,
that.
it would be that's where, Quattro was the whole time during Double Zeta.
There
He
you
was on
go.
another mission, I don't know.
A mission for the AEUG. In addition to that, also featured in the care package, which
Oh,
I'm sure you guys are excited about this. We've got Requiem for Vengeance action here.
yeah,
You're
that stuff.
I am
Oof.
so excited. You're like, "Oh, that stuff."
No,
I'm
'cause
kidding.
like, I'd been waiting so long, and I was telling you before this, I started building the Zaku. I decided what I'm gonna do is build the Gundam EX last, because
Okay.
I like that so much, so I'm building the Zaku first. So far, the build is fun, and the way I like it, it's fast, and I was building like, "Wait, wait, wait, I'm gonna wait to finish this on stream." But, oh, the fun build, and so these considered, like, the newest Gunpla that's out? Kind of?
I
That's not
would
a
say that
reprint?
yeah, you know what? I think that that's a very good observation, is that as far as, like, engineering goes, these would be the most cutting edge because they are
Right.
they're not based on a previous model, right?
Right.
Because
And
like,
even so far building it, nothing feels the same or familiar.
that's
It actually is very unique. Yeah.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm excited to dive into those and see what they're like, especially because you and I just both built the real grade
Oh, yeah.
Gundam 2.0, which,
Yeah.
like
Great
I
kit.
said, to me, that's the definitive RX-78 for now.
I agree. Totally agree. It's made me no longer appreciate the 3.0, which was the same as the first real grade,
Yeah,
where I noticed it has, like, these black or white decals, they're just shapes. They're not really anything.
no.
At first, I was like, "That's cool," but after a while, it's like, "Well, that's not really anything." And this one doesn't do that, you know?
It's
So,
true, it's true,
yeah.
all of the decals are very so what's interesting about that, yeah, is that, like, you almost get those shapes are built into it, right? Because you have parts of the inner frame that show through the
Exactly.
armor.
Which I guess that's what they were trying to achieve, and they kinda engineered that in, so I
Yeah,
really like it. Yeah,
which
it's
is kind of a throwback. I actually almost sent you this video. I've been following this Japanese YouTuber that takes, like, all of the 1990, Zeta Gundam kits, like, the Gundam Mark II and the Zeta Gundam
oh, yeah.
itself, and he basically is upscaling them, right? Like, adding in parts. This was a brilliant idea. He took parts from a G-frame kit, like the articulated G-frame, and snipped them up and cut them apart and then, like, used them as joints inside the old kit. So, like,
Oh,
if the
wow.
arm was only able to, like, do an elbow bend, but not necessarily rotate, he would cut out the joint that was in there in the first place and then glue in the G-frame joint, and that would give it the full articulation. Brilliant.
You
But
know
the reason I bring it up is that the RX-178, the Gundam Mark II,
yeah.
it's the system injection plastic that I've mentioned about, like, the Zeta, wave shooter type, where the kit itself is multicolored parts. Like, they injected
Oh.
multiple colored plastic into the mold, and so the shoulder actually has the RX-178 decal on it, and it shows through the white plastic. It's really awesome.
And this was one that came out in the '90s?
Yeah, I think it came out in 1990.
Really? Okay, I'm gonna have to look that up. Because talking about this, something else that, like, I feel like it would be cool if we did sometime, maybe as like a joint stream or something, is find an and you actually already do this, so really it's just both of us doing it, but we find an old kit we have and see what we can do to get like, even though it might already be in good shape, what can we do to like up it? Which, yeah, again, you're already doing that like nearly every day. I
Well, I don't know, stay tuned. I might have something for you on that.
Oh,
If
okay.
only to be cryptic about it. I
Yeah, I
think
like the sound of that.
but I do wanna take it to the chat for a little bit because I see that we've got a lot of our friends in here. We've got Ultronymous, we've got Taco, we've got Robert, we've got Zionic Shadow, Dan, Aoshi. Um, Good to see you guys. Magus. I did see a chat from Robert that I do wanna address because this is actually, this is near and dear to my heart, right? So earlier, Robert, you asked, the next time you and Adam are talking together about creating a new indie Gundam game, maybe ask YouTuber Thomas Brush to join you and share some tips for making your game better.
Ah,
This is a I'm really glad you brought this up because I was actually featured on one of Thomas Brush's live streams when he was doing a game dev chat. And one of the questions I asked, he answered. And, it was something that was very poignant because it was something that I don't think people necessarily consider a lot. So the question I had for him was, you know, what do you do? Because this happens to you and I when you and I are talking about developing games and we have an idea, we start out with a prototype, and then we start kind of like scope creeping or feature
yeah,
creeping the game, which is so easy to do.
I know.
And so the question I had for him was like, "Hey, what do you do when your game starts to like get away from your original vision?" Right? Like let's say I am committed to making the next Breath of the Wild, but then all of a sudden the gameplay starts coming together and it starts feeling more like a first person shooter. Like what do you do with that? And his answer was actually, I think, surprising because most people would say just like commit to it. Like
Yeah.
don't change just because the game is changing on you. And he was like, "No." He was like, "Honestly, if your game starts to change from what your original vision was, like, it has to because as you're developing a game, you're going to get better at what you're doing. Your talents are going to grow. You're going to like improve on what you're capable of doing. And so if your original vision like, if you don't have a change from your original vision, then you haven't grown at all. Because like,
Right.
4 months from now, you're gonna be a much better developer than you were 4 months ago. So it's like the constant iteration is actually part of the process.
Yeah, I
So yeah.
remember when you told me that, I was like, "Yeah, that's a good point." It's almost like you can embrace it. There's probably still a balance to that, to a degree, but I think it's good to embrace that because 'cause you've even brought up stuff to me, like, as we were working on one of the 2D ideas, how we were going along and you would, like, bring up something to, like, change more of the aesthetic or look, and I'm thinking, "Well, actually, maybe that is a good idea because of the things always looking the same."
Yeah,
And you were kind of bringing, well, it's okay to change things up here because this could, I don't want to talk too much about it, but it's a really good idea. That
absolutely. Yeah,
yeah, so
always be
that
willing
would
to
be
kill
cool
your
though.
darlings.
If there was a stream of having him on Thomas Burch, because you've put me on to him, and us, yeah, talking about our concept and ideas, and him almost kind of being that like consultant to be like, well, you would do this or that.
Yeah, I would love for him to, like to pick apart the idea and be like, "No, this sucks," or like,
Yeah, no, that's cool.
Hey, look at that. My brother is in the chat right now. Good to
Oh,
see you, Chris. I appreciate it.
that's cool. Oh, that's awesome.
But so I think earlier I mentioned the idea of like being a content creator and in marketing for Gundam
Oh,
and things like that in general. And it's something that keeps coming up, in my day job and of course like in the marketing stuff that that I consume as part of my career path, right? So like I constantly get bombarded with marketing gurus like, Gary Vee and that stuff. And
oh
like,
yeah.
in that in his new book, Day Trading Attention, he talks about like, oh, here, you know what? I'll let me do my best, Gary V impression.
Okay, here we go. Don't embarrass
We
me.
gotta do the beanie, and then he's gonna be like, you know, "Yo, man, you gotta post like 15 times a day, bro, or else you're never gonna make it on YouTube. You're never gonna make it on TikTok. You're never gonna make it on LinkedIn. If you wanna do what I'm doing, then you better buy a company that makes rosé wine, okay?"
Hey, that was good. I don't know who that was, even though it was supposed to be Gary Vee, but that was g like, you could be an actor. Okay, that was some good voice work there. What was that? Is that Bostonian? I don't
I
know.
guess he's a Bostonian. I
Yeah,
don't know
New
where
York.
he's from, but he
Whatever
does
that
have a
was, whatever
distinct
you
accent and a
channeled,
distinct mannerism of
it
saying
works.
I edited out the swear words because typically
Oh,
he's a big F-bomb guy.
okay.
But here's where I wanna kind of, like, put your guys' minds at ease, especially if you're someone who wants to be a content creator, is that everything goes back to the fundamentals of design, right? And the fundamentals of marketing when what it comes down to is you have 3 things. You have fast, good, and cheap. And you can only pick 2 because it is impossible to do all 3. Um, and so, like, for instance, if you want something done quickly, but you want it done cheap, then somebody's gonna cut corners and you're going to get an inferior product. If you want something done really well and you want it done fast, expect to pay a premium for it. Makes sense, right? And it kind of goes back to another 3 things that kind of add up together is time, money, and talent, and how you can exchange any one of those 3 things for another. So you can commit time in order to educate yourself and become more talented. You can
Yeah,
sell your talents to people for money, and then you can use money to then buy other people's time and talent and buy time for yourself. So, like, you can always exchange those 3 things. And so that's where, like, the good, fast, and cheap thing comes from is that, you're exchanging one of those things for the other 2. Um, and so the reason I bring this up is because, when you look at someone like Gary Vee who's telling you you have to post like a million times a day, Gary Vee is a person who A, has kind of already made his billions,
yeah,
and B, his brand, his product that he sells are his words. And so for him to make 40 videos just shouting at a camera is nothing. Like he could crap out 1,000 of them a day and then just trickle them out over several months. But what if you're a gunplay YouTuber? What if you're Ray Studios?
oh,
I
yeah,
invite you guys to go back 5 years ago before Ray Studios was a thing and it was just Ray, when it was just the one guy, and he would only post 1 video every several months because it was one really good video because he spent a lot of time customizing his kits,
mhm,
and it wasn't until he got that award-winning GM Sniper 2 that he built that, his career really took off, right? And what did he do? He started Ray Studio, which is a team of like 7 guys that are always cranking out content together. They have a house style. And so basically, what did he do? He took what was good and cheap because it was just him. So it was just good and cheap, but took a long time. And then he took cheap out of the equation and decided to pay 7 people to make the
yeah,
content fast. And so now he's able to crank out content and put it towards selling the Ray Studios merchandise. This is what I'm trying to impart to you guys is if you're a solo creator on YouTube or Instagram or whatever you're doing, don't feel like you have to constantly post things because what you're gonna do is if you're doing it fast and you're doing it cheap, then it's going to be crap content and no one's gonna wanna watch it.
right. Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah,
So then what I invite you guys to do is look at someone like Adam, who has invested a lot of time and a lot of money into making his content easily, easy to do. And so that's what you brought up earlier, is you have surrounded yourself with the tools and the software and everything you need in order to fire up a stream without having to commit an hour to setting up your area.
yeah. No, that's true. I think the biggest change I see right now, and it's so amazing, is when I would first stream, I was always nervous, I was always sweating, eh, and and then I sometimes it was almost like too much for my head. I couldn't take it, and it's like, I don't want to stream, but it, but the time I took the time. I started in 2021, even though I've been doing it before to really commit. I started in 2021. The thing where you,
Yeah.
like, do something over and over and over.
Put in
2021.
your reps.
Yeah, and it got to the point now, where it's like, "Oh, stream, sure. I'll just fire everything up. I know I've took the time to learn all the software. I took taking the time, I find this natural voice that then I feel comfortable with."
And you
So,
paid for software. Like,
that's true.
that I
Yeah.
mean, you have used the best of the best. Like, you used Wirecast,
Yep.
which is like, you know, super expensive. You've done the premium Streamlabs. So, I
Yep.
mean,
I've tried everything, circling back around to what you always use, and it's OBS really, because once you learn it's like you can pay for convenience, but it kinda goes back to your little three-pronged approach, because by paying for fast, sometimes some things fall through because I can't customize it the way I want. I can't so
exactly.
by then going back to OBS, now that I've taken the time to learn it, I can customize it. So when I'm making my content, I try to make it as digestible as possible, first and foremost. Now, if I was to be able to improve upon my formula right now, what I would do is offload the editing so that
Mm,
I could have more information in each video. Because when I research a video, I tell myself, okay, I'm only going to spend so much time putting together the materials, because then I have to edit it when I'm done. And this stuff takes a while. And I feel like, even though I like editing, that's the thing, I do like editing. But if I was to offload that, I would then spend more time like having a more um structured approach to like a lore video. Now, when it comes to when I'm doing like reviews of Gunpla or collectibles, I love those. Those are the easiest because I have it where I have my overhead camera and I have my other
cool.
camera, but I have OBS set up for three scenes. One is just me, one is the item in me, and then one is the item. So between thoughts, I will then click in OBS where I want the camera. So when I'm done, I'm not editing those shots together. I'm using AutoCut to
There you
automatically cut
go.
out the, blank spaces.
See, now I need to get you on advanced scene switcher so that you can automate the scene switching.
How does it automate?
You can build any kind of macros that you want. We'll talk about it after the
Oh,
stream.
yeah, let's do that because I have it installed, but I just haven't really messed with it. I
Oh,
have
yeah.
it for the music
Yep,
where
same
just
here, so that it
okay.
fades the music out at the
Yeah,
beginning.
yeah.
But hey, thanks for the sub, by the way. I saw that on Twitch. And now my sub alerts are actually working. You had the Zeta Gundam fly in and do its
Oh,
thing.
that's cool.
And Ayoshi brings up a very good point. Gunpla is super expensive. So again, when you go back to fast, cheap, and good, if you know,
I know having it's like there's times where I might have a collectible each week that I can review, and if it's not a Gunpla I built, it's then, uh, like a robot spirits or something. And so it's nice then when you can work with people. You were talking about offloading things. I can work with
yeah,
people and exchange services where then I can get Gunpla for me, then maybe promoting them. That allows me then not to have to spend the money on that. So then I have the money to spend on the one for next week or whatever. Yeah.
yeah. But hey, I'm with you as far as like the offloading editing stuff goes, because I think one of the things that held me back when I started doing the Dissecting Gundam series was the fact that, it would take me about an hour, hour and a half to actually record an episode because basically, like you, I had it set up to where I had like an OBS scene where I had the video of me, I had the screen share of the episode that was running in the background, and then I had the overlay, right? And then even then, just by the nature of like I could only, and this is insider secrets for you guys. The magic number, if you're going to upload content from like, an episode of Mobile Suit Gundam, for instance, uh 8 seconds
Oh,
is
okay.
is the magic number if you want to avoid a copyright claim on your video. So
8 sec. Thank
I've
you.
I've gotten away with up to 14 seconds, but it's very hit or miss there. But
Okay.
8 seconds, anything 8 seconds and below, I was able to do very well. So that gave me kind of a recipe for if I'm gonna talk over the video, I'll talk for 8 seconds, hit pause, and then talk over a still frame. But
And
then
where are you playing the video? Like, are you using like VLC and you're capturing that, or
So I was actually capturing, I was running the Blu-ray on my PS3, and then I have a capture card for that I was
ah?
pulling the video in from. So
Oh, that's a direct source. That's a good idea.
yeah, yeah. Although now what I think I'm going to do, and again, kind of speaking cryptically because I do have some content coming out that I've written some scripts for. These are going to be long form videos, so don't expect them to be coming out frequently. As we talk about like, cheap and
Right.
and
Yeah,
good.
for sure.
Um, you know, these videos, I am actually taking the 1080 footage from the Blu-rays and I'm upscaling it to 4K, which that's taking a huge amount of time. 'Cause you're
Whoa.
talking about 43 episodes of the HD footage from the Blu-ray that I'm then upscaling to 4K that I'm going to be using for these videos. Well, 8 seconds of it, I guess.
Well, are you using Handbrake
Yeah. Yeah.
to upscale?
Mhm.
Wow,
And
okay, so I never thought about doing that because I've ripped all my Blu-rays.
oh, really?
Yeah, I can re-rip them knowing that 4K makes a difference. Um, do you have a Blu-ray in it okay, so you don't even need a 4K player, you just need a Blu-ray player because you're ripping it and the software is just upscaling it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very interesting. I need to do that.
And so I can share the, settings with you, like, our
Yeah.
mutual friend, Alter, he was trying to upscale some PS2 footage. It was actually
Oh.
what was fascinating about it is he was upscaling PS2 footage, and it was from an emulator, and so the textures in the game were already upscaled and fantastic, but the sprite animations that would appear in the corner, like, you would have
Oh,
Toquan
yeah,
pop up or something like that, those are rendered animations. They're not textures that can be upscaled by via an emulator.
yeah.
So what we did was we took the footage from the emulator. I plugged it into Handbrake using my anime upscaling settings, which removed tons of like the JPEG artifacting, and like the color noise, which I think especially one of the things that I ripped was the Zeta Gundam New Translation movies. And though like the new animation from that movie, obviously, I mean, it was like 2011, so like the animation in it was fantastic, but there was a ton of like artifacting, especially like noise in certain scenes, and so I was able to strip that out in Handbrake. So
Wait, is that like using a type of AI? Could you really say it's algorithm based to do that though? I mean, not that there's a problem with it, but
maybe so, and it's so funny because I've been, working with a lot of different AIs lately for different reasons, whether it's translating content, whether it's just getting ideas for content. I'm going to go out on a limb and say, if you are somebody that uses like any kind of large language model, don't use Claude. Um,
no, haven't heard
yeah,
of that.
Claude, it's from what's the company name? I forget, but, I asked Claude a Gundam question, and it hit me with the most, like, scathing, like, disapproval answer. It was like, "I don't feel comfortable answering a question that glorifies violence and war about Gundam," and I was
Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry, I thought I was asking an AI, not
Yeah,
Twitter.
that's at least you know they're not gonna hurt you or so unless they get very militant about it. No, that's interesting. Speaking of AI, like at work, I work with it all the time, and now, as we're helping some of our clients kind of navigate utilizing it, but in a safe manner, there's over 400 different LLMs or and other pieces that have to be considered either blocked or sanctioned. So that's like a whole new world when it just comes to businesses connecting their infrastructure to an AI model and not letting users just connect whatever AI they want to use. Like you have to block that stuff. Yeah, over 470 something. Just
Wild.
it's everywhere. It's crazy. And so, but that kind of goes to what you're saying. Like you can use different ones and get different answers, just like if you were to ask different people questions and the different answers you might get.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
I guess it's like it's all and you and I have talked about this before, how it's not genuine AI, right? It's really just a
exactly.
sophisticated algorithm. It's a series of
It's
if-then
existed
statements.
forever, ever since the computer.
Yeah. Um,
That's all it is, just computations.
and so you have a couple of input variables that you can put into, right? Like, obviously, there's the amount of data that it scrapes and the sources of data that it scrapes from in order to collect its intelligence.
Right.
And then, of course, there's whatever frameworks and guide rails are placed upon it by the creators of that model. And so,
Exactly.
if I were to ask, so this was the funny thing is the follow up question I asked Claude before I canceled my account was, I was like, okay, so hypothetically, if you weren't uncomfortable talking to me about Gundam, and then I put in parentheses, which has an anti-war message, by the way, what would you suggest? And it was like, oh, thank you for clarifying that Gundam has an anti-war message. Perhaps you should, discuss the colonialism behind it. And I was like, okay, this is where we're going. All right,
Well,
so
that's very interesting that it's and I feel like sometimes an AI may answer based on the people programming it. Not that it would completely mean that it has a sort of agenda, but more of the way people would expect answers to be. Like, it was funny when I think it was Elon Musk was on Joe Rogan, and he was asking his AI to say something, and it wasn't doing it the way he wanted. It's like, "Oh, we can make the tweaks." And it's like, at the end of the day, yeah, you're really just programming a computer. So,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah, and when I was working on that colony drop video, what helped me was, like, I would ask it to pull stats, and then I can easily then verify that and look it up. And then, okay, I already have everything sort of, and then I, move things around, but it just that to go back to what we were talking about with the content creation, that helped like me quickly by utilizing AI. Okay, let's get this data over here, format it. How do I want to speak on it and all that? And yeah, it's super helpful.
Yeah, I mean, there are certain things that I think, LLMs are very helpful for. Personally, I love using it for, basically rubber duck debugging when I'm working on a programming project or,
Mm,
like, game development. It's a lot
that's
easier
good.
and a lot less, judgmental than going to Stack Overflow or to a forum, and, like, I post a question like,
Oh,
"How do I apply a downward gravity force to my Unity character controller?"
and it
And,
was like,
I'm gonna get, like, 30 answers that are, like,
and they're like,
Reddit
"Well, you and your
tier
wife must have an
bad.
issue at home for this to be," and it's like, "What? That's not what I'm." No, and that's interesting because even at work, a lot of times I use it to, uh, format industry specific. I don't know if it's like a white paper or like I need to get
Oh,
a
yeah.
project put together, and I know I can ask it industry specific questions, get details on certain products, have it formulate, and I might even say, "Hey, can you add a stock image that looks like this?" And then I love it. It's interesting how this stuff is very helpful.
Yeah, it is. Hey, cheers. Thank you guys for the follows. Oh my gosh, Gunpla Sisters in chat. What's going on? I thought that they were streaming right now.
Oh, that's cool.
Well, I love to have you guys live here. Let me make sure I can actually pull that chat. Yeah, there we go. Wow, man, it is a follow frenzy over here on Twitch. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it.
That is cool.
Um, yeah, I mean, and I definitely understand the complaints, and I totally empathize with them. Like, I don't typically want like, I don't ever use, generative AI for, like, images or creating content. I'll use it to bounce ideas off of someone or something, in this case, to get content ideas, but never do I, like, crap out AI generated content because that's
Right,
just
like, make it where that's the final deliverable. It's
exactly,
always
yeah.
like it's an iterative process. You kinda use it to help, like, not so you don't have to reinvent the wheel, you
And you
know?
can tell that a lot of these, models were actually programmed by millennials because of how much they will make stuff up when they're wrong.
Good.
For there was something I was working on some time ago where I was like, "Hey, can you write me a summary of the events of We Are the Federation Hooligans?" That
Oh,
Gundam
yeah.
manga, and it tried to sneak one past me because it gave me, like, an outline of the story. It was like, "Okay, yeah, here's a summary of the manga. The BD-1 is a Blue Destiny unit based on the GM, and, what's it, Yukijima is the pilot." And I was like, "Wait a second. This isn't We Are the Federation."
Yeah,
Like,
that's crazy, yeah.
so it's amazing to me that, like, these models will lie to you. Like,
Yeah,
they will just like, it's not even like the disclaimer, like, "Oh, sometimes it provides incorrect information." It will lie to you and fill in if it doesn't know the answer, and it's like,
Which, yeah, I wonder if there's, like, some sort of threshold that's programmed into which it will just deliver whatever it can that just seems to fit, because that's kind of what the algorithm's doing anyway. Or the threshold would then be like, which it does sometimes, where it's like, "Well, I can't answer that," or "I don't have enough information." But it's interesting how sometimes that threshold either doesn't exist, or and it depends on the topic too. It probably depends on how much people are, like, researching that, for instance. How much people
Yeah.
research, that manga compared to how to fix an engine in, like, a Mustang or something, you know? So,
Yeah, well, I am single-handedly feeding all of these AIs as much Gundam information as I can, so it's,
that's cool.
but yeah, I mean, that is, so really, to bring it full circle, man, how do we even get on the topic of AI? We were just talking about, like, content creation
And
and
then it was, ripping the Zeta.
ripping the Zeta,
Z
Blu-rays, yeah.
Blu-rays and using the AI upscaling, but yeah, I wanna do that 4K, that sounds awesome.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So I'll share my presets with you,
Okay,
so
cool.
that you can, do something similar if you want to.
Yep.
Um, and mostly I like using it because then it allows me to zoom and crop on, like, certain scenes and things like that, without, like, losing detail. So,
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea.
um and all of it, I think, goes to the idea of creating quality content that takes more time, which, again, kind of bringing it full circle is like, yes, doing things right, doing things well is going to take more time than doing them fast. But wouldn't you rather have a good product in the end? And so, yes, it takes
Yeah.
time to upscale anime from 1080 to 4K, but the finished product is going to be better for it. Um, you know, Similarly with the Gunpla Builders World Cup here this weekend, I'm sure that there are people that are going to rush their builds, and they're probably not.
Alright.
They're
Well, and
probably
I
not
bet,
going to.
though, it's one of those things, you've brought this up before, it's like, this person either won't have a build, or they're like, "You know what, I'll just rush, and at least this I'll have something I entered." So I've experienced that part, because I remember you said, like, sometimes people stop, and they never just get to that next part to know, what to do.
And that's why I think it's good to have a deadline in mind, like, just to put a limitation on
Yeah.
yourself. Like, you know what? Hell or high water, I have to deliver this by this time. And by doing so, I know that I'm not just going to continue to kick the can down the road. Now, don't do what, like, so back in July when I entered, like, the local hobby town model contest, I felt so bad for this one guy because he thought that it was like you build it on site. And so he had
Oh.
one of the knights from Seed Freedom,
Yeah.
and so he, like, was rushing to build that in, like, an hour and 15 minutes just to get it to the table, and, like,
Oh, no.
um
Well, that's kind of a cool little experiment, I guess.
but to your point, he could have just walked away and been
Yeah.
like, "Oh, well, then," but the thing is he committed to it, and now he knows, and next time he'll do better. Like, you know, look, I'm gonna quote Soletta Mercury on this one. Uh, yeah, if you run away, you only gain 1, but you stick it out and you gain 2.
Yeah.
So, I think experience and pride in being able to have been in the competition and to have, carried it to fruition, I think is worth more than
It's
yeah.
And I was gonna say it's the same, what you started with the, content creation. It's like, I'm just gonna stream. Maybe I don't have all the elements I want, and I'm not using featured chat or best camera, but you just do it, you get used to it, you get comfortable, and
Yeah,
then the next time it's better. That's like a
exactly,
plus
and then you
one.
start having guests on,
Yeah.
and that's where, honestly,
Let's
we've
do it.
introduced most of our issues because I was gonna say, tonight we started late, not because of technical issues for once, we actually started late because I was, trying to get my daughter to go to sleep, and she was
Yeah. Classic. Classic kid stuff.
Yeah,
But yeah, and as soon as you got on, it was like everything was working. It's weird
yeah,
how that is sometimes, where it's just everything's working, and then it's like, "Okay, well."
exactly. So, yeah, definitely stay tuned for like you, I'm going to have, my own build streams of these guys. Actually, let's go ahead and get on the books for tell me when you're going to stream building the Gundam EX, and let's just
Okay.
hop on and do it together.
Okay. Yeah, let's do that. I know for sure Saturday I'm gonna make time. I'll try to let you know ahead of time because what I usually do is once I'm done doing family stuff or whatever, and then it's like, okay, it looks like I got an hour to do something else, but I'll try to let you know ahead of time.
Heck yeah, man.
And yeah, let me know, yeah, what your Saturday's gonna be like. We could do that. Yeah.
Well, this Saturday is gonna be a little crazy because I'm gonna be at the Gunpla Builders World Cup.
Oh, there's that. Okay.
So there's
Well,
that little thing, but
hey, well, I'm now that I feel so much comfortable streaming, I might even probably do it Sunday also. I have a
there you
lot to
go.
build. I'm getting some more stuff from Art Rovo Gundam in. I ordered a GM master grade because I've always wanted to build a master grade GM,
Oh,
classic one. So,
nice.
yeah,
Yeah. That's one that, so that yeah, they haven't released an update to that one in
right.
a long
So it's
time.
like an older type, but I like that. And I have the gun cannon and the 2.0 RX-78 too, so I kind of want to have them
So
together.
I have that old master grade GM too,
Oh,
which is it's on the chopping block as far as, like, my upscaling old kits goes
oh,
because
cool.
of UC master grades that I have, like, from when I was a teenager. I have the RX-78, Char's Zaku, the Easy 8, the GM, and the Goof Custom.
Oh,
So,
those are good ones.
yeah, yeah, I mean, I'm obviously a huge fan of all of them, and I've already started upgrading some of them, like, installing the wireless LEDs into the Goof, the Zaku, and the Gundam,
That
so
seems to make sense for master grades.
yeah, yeah, and I think I might have mentioned, at the time that because you and I have talked about it before where, like, high grades are my favorite just because there's so much empty space inside of them that you can
Mhm.
cram them full of electronics, but if you're gonna do a master grade, then using one of these little actually, what's interesting is with the mono eyes on the master grade Zaku and Goof, you can just take the mono eye that's like, you can just take a hobby saw, cut the mono eye off, and glue this onto it, and it's done. You don't even have to, like it fits in the same space that the
Wow.
Zaku mono eye was, so it's like
Okay, that's
and,
cool.
it's got wires on it and, like, a little PCB, so it actually kind of looks like an electronic component as opposed to a piece of plastic.
And okay, that's a good point because then I was gonna ask, and this is this like a 1.0 or something? Uh,
Ye Yeah, this is
okay.
the 1.0
D
Zaku, yeah.
does it, do it where the head or whatever moves where the mono eye is? Because you could maybe use some sort of little motor and have it to where then you could control it moving around, I think.
Don't give me ideas, man.
That's a Hatter thing for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, Sammy's reminding me that I didn't shout out, did Zeke New York, AKA Zionic Shadow, he's gonna kill me for saying Zionic Shadow. He's like, "No, no, these are from Zeke New York, okay?"
Okay.
Did he send you one of these as well, the Planosaurus?
No. What is it?
This is a Bandai fossil model kit.
Oh,
It
wow.
is a dinosaur.
That is very interesting. I did not know that existed.
I am gonna
It wasn't in
see
a box or anything? It's just a separate plastic thing?
just the poly bag, but,
Interesting.
yeah, it's pretty fascinating because it's like the body of it is clear plastic, but obviously the bones are
Oh, okay, I've seen that before. I've seen that's really neat, yeah.
so I'm thinking I should color these with, like, some kind of glow paint, and then that way, when you have it under blacklight or something,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
illuminated, so
Oh,
that'll be
that's a good
cool.
idea. Cool.
But, yeah, and I did wanna take an opportunity to say, "Hey, if you are a patron and you are interested in having your content featured, the first show of" oh, Zionic says it's for the little one. Yeah, you know what? I'll see if she can if she get she I'm okay, my daughter did start playing with my hobby nippers and, like, started running around with them. I was like, "Ah!" Um,
Yeah, that
so I think I'll cut the parts out for her and let her put them together that way. She
yeah,
might be
teach
a
her
little
some
little for
dinosaur anatomy, you know?
yeah, which she's a huge dinosaur fan. Actually, tonight, while I was fixing dinner for her, she was watching her current favorite movie is The Good Dinosaur, that Pixar movie.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's cool.
Um, yeah,
Oh, that works.
she gets very mean about, like, the pterodactyls. She's like, "Bad birds. The bad birds got Spot." And, like
Oh, that's funny. She's invested into that.
yeah, oh, it's like an emotional roller coaster for her. She's like, "Oh, no. Oh, no. What happened, papa?"
Oh,
Um,
that's cute.
which, hey, shout out to her as well because she actually helped me do the unboxing video on Instagram. So if you guys haven't
Oh,
seen it, go hit my Instagram after this and check out the unboxing video because you'll get to hear a little cameo from my daughter. I hope
oh,
you
that's
guys
cool.
enjoy that. But yeah, so like I said, stay tuned for some content around the Gundam Gunpla Builders World Cup that's coming to my town here this weekend. If you have not, go check out the Patreon, and if you have not come up with a project, throw something together that we can feature on the show first week in January. I am committed to finishing the Core Zeta Gundam, so I know that Pyro's on the Patreon, and and he's probably in bed right now being over across the
Oh,
pond, but he'll probably watch the VOD of this stream, and I know that he's been dying to see me finish this. So this is my way of committing to finishing the Zeta Gundam by the end of the month, is that it's a Patreon deal now.
cool. That is cool.
Oh, before we do check out, I am getting a chat here from Robert saying, "How long have you and Adam been together, since I introduced you to?" Well, I'm happily married, so Adam and I have not been together. I'm kidding, I'm kidding. No, but it has been about 2 years. Honestly, I stopped keeping track of, like, episode numbers of, like, our streams,
Yeah, me
but,
too.
yeah, it's so hard. Like, once you get past, like, 100, it's
Yeah,
very
I have to reference it every time I
mhm.
update.
But yeah, I mean, it's been over 2 years since we
Yeah,
started streaming together, so
I think so, yeah.
but yeah, anything I'm forgetting before we sign off for the evening? I know we had a little bit of a late start, but I do wanna be
Yeah.
respectful of your time, Adam, because I know that you were,
Yeah.
obviously,
No.
accommodating for me.
No, no, yeah, I'm trying to think, we touched on a lot of stuff, nothing yeah, I don't think there's anything
If you
else.
haven't checked it out, definitely go watch Adam's video about colony drops because, as a Xeon enthusiast myself, I think that more of them should happen,
Oh, yeah, of
more
course.
frequently. Uh,
It's a very unique way to cause genocide, but,
yeah,
I guess it
um it definitely lends some credence to the theories that I have about, like, Earth is, like, not as great as it's cracked up to be, in Gundam. It's
yeah.
it's like, "Oh."
Yeah, I always think of that when I'm watching things that have to do with Earth. I always think of what you said before, and it makes
Yeah,
sense.
like, I don't think you've ever like, there's never a scene that I'm like, "Oh, wow, it looks, like, really nice here. It looks like a great place to live." It's like everything is, like, ramshackle huts or, like, ruined buildings.
Or if we happen to be seeing, like, some, or high-ranking person or an executive, I forget what they're usually, like, Davao or something, or, like, if they were at the capital in Africa,
Oh, Dakar.
yeah,
Yeah.
like, those areas look nice, but everywhere else, like, where Amuro
Mhm.
went to go see his mom, like, Victory
And
Gundam.
Hong Kong is nice, I guess.
Yeah,
Mm,
but yeah, I think those major cities would and I've been mentioning in the video, there would be a degree of technology that would allow those certain areas to still kind of flourish.
yeah, and like you said, I mean, because of the climate change that happens as a result of that, like, there's a lot of, like you said about Bernie saying like, "Oh, it's cold this time of year," and it's like, it might be. Like,
Yeah,
how would you know?
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Um, but no, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you guys for the subs and the follows over on Twitch,
yeah,
and, again, hope you guys have a great evening, great rest of your week. Definitely go check out Adam's videos from this week. Definitely, like I said, go over to Instagram and see the unboxing of all of these goodies from Sieg, New York. I am gonna have some streams coming up soon with that. And yeah, I think I cryptically alluded to some other content that's coming up the pipe.
mhm,
So I hope you guys are excited to see that as well. Until then, Gundam Explained show tomorrow.
yep,
Have a good night, y'all.
see
Thank you.
y'all.